Be a cop. Look at this guy. Bad back, bad marriage, bad attitude. Son, does that sound like any kind of life for anybody?
But if you were a cop, people don't sass you.
Burt Reynolds gets saddled with an 8-year-old kid as a partner in Cop and a Half, one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, along with Danny DeVito's latest film, and also the new film by this year's Oscar tribute recipient, Federico Fellini. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is Cop and a Half, and it's an entertaining example of the kind of movie formula I call the one's-a movie. For example, one's a cop and one's a robber, or in this case, one's a cop and the other is a precocious kid. The kid's name is Devin, and he's played by Norman D. Golden II, and he dreams of nothing else all day long but someday being a police officer. He even studies TV shows to learn how to talk like a cop, and when he becomes an important witness to a crime, he won't share the information unless the police agree to make him a cop.
There's a shipment of euphoria coming in.
Mm-hmm. Where?
Don't know, but I got a name.
What's the name?
I really want to give you this name. You put me on duty, it's yours.
Burt Reynolds stars as the hard-boiled cop who gets the assignment of babysitting little Devin and finds out he has his hands full.
At this very moment, the pink, delicate tissues of my still-forming lungs may be shriveling into green chunks of mucus, struggling for their last gasp of poison brown air.
The pint-sized cop's first bust? Well, he nabs his school principal for doing 37 in a 35-mile-per-hour zone.
What's going on here? What are you?
I'm your worst nightmare. An 8-year-old with a badge.
I'm in a hurry, Butler. And I got a nightmare for you in my office. You know where that is.
Don't sass me, Mr. Fleming.
Cop and a Half is not any kind of a masterpiece, but on the other hand, it's not dumb and it's not boring either. And a lot of the credit for that goes to little Norman D. Golden II, who is a natural actor, very bright and very funny. But credit must also be paid to big Burt Reynolds, who takes what might have looked like a thankless role and plays it just right here, finding the balance between toughness and humor. This movie has the kind of chemistry between the grown-up world and a smart kid that I look for and missed in Home Alone 2. It's amusing, it moves, and somewhat to my surprise, I liked it.
Wow, where's your big red suit and beard, Santa? You just gave them a gift.
You didn't like this movie?
No,
you didn't like little Norman Golden?
No, I didn't think
you didn't like Norman Golden?
No, I didn't think he was a particularly charismatic actor or a very good actor, and I think Burt Reynolds is even worse. And I think that I was really surprised because I didn't feel that there was any chemistry between the two. I thought Reynolds was sort of hard. The kid was sort of looking. You could see him sometimes looking for his lines. And gee, I thought it was dumb, not credible whatsoever.
Reynolds plays the cop like a real cop instead of playing him like some kind of a,
I think it's a cartoon.
Marshmallow.
I think it's
it is a cartoon, Gene.
Yeah,
it is a cartoon.
A lame one.
A good cartoon.
Oh, no, I'm stunned, Roger. Okay, next movie, and it's an attempt to film one of the great American novels. Some people say the great American novel, Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huck Finn. And I'm afraid it would take a really great filmmaker to do justice to this book, and I wish some great director would. And yet, I did like this version as far as it went. It takes some, but not all of the edges off Twain's picaresque novel about a young man experiencing America with all of its grand contradictions, most notably slavery in the so-called land of the free. Here we see Huck, Elijah Wood, here's a good young actor, who has run away from his abusive father as he encounters another runaway, a slave played by Courtney B. Vance, a major Broadway talent.
Huck?
Hell's bells, Jim. I almost puked up my livers.
I thought you was dead.
I ain't dead.
But your pap came into town this morning screaming about how some robbers had cut you into 1,000,000 pieces.
Faked it all, Jim. I'm as alive as you.
In a number of scenes in the film, both Huck and Jim enjoy the freedom that the great Mississippi River represents.
that's K-Roll, I'm a free man. And when I'm free, I'm gonna work hard and save every penny and buy my wife and my children. And if they won't sell them, I'll steal them.
You wouldn't.
Well, if they won't sell them, Huck, they're my wife and my children. It ain't right that they be bought and sold.
The story becomes complicated, you'll recall, when Jim is suspected of having murdered the runaway Huck, who has faked his own death.
Runaway slave.
And what's that say?
Handsome and well-mannered.
Now, come on, Huck, what's it really say?
Nothing. Just that you're wanted for murder.
Murder?
In a lighter vein, Huck encounters a couple of con men known as the King and the Duke, played by Jason Robards and Robbie Coltrane.
We ain't exactly the type to turn others into the law. No, as a matter of fact, we stay as far away from the law as is humanly possible. So if you two just listen up and shut up and do as you're told. And wait on us hand and foot. Yeah, be real nice to us. We won't say a word.
Now, the essential problem with filming The Adventures of Huck Finn is in adapting the book. Most studio production executives assume that this would make a perfect children's film, forgetting that this story is a favorite of adults, educated adults, worldwide. Director Stephen Sommers improves on that a little bit by giving some of the more provocative chapters in the novel their due. Huck's drunken father, Jim's travail. Yes, a better film could still be made, but I like this one enough to give it a marginal thumbs up.
I felt about it the same way. This is not a book really for children, although it was the first book that I read, so I should correct myself. But this is an entertaining film. Yes. I also enjoyed Robbie Coltrane and Jason Robards as the two con men who they meet along the way, who pose as the visitors from England. And it's a picaresque novel in which the people go along the Mississippi and they have adventures along the way, and there's the great majesty of the river at night and so forth. And a lot of that atmosphere is there, and I hope it will encourage people to look at the book.
I think that it also has some dark sides.
Yes,
it doesn't shy away from that, and I appreciate that, because this is a national treasure, and I think it's an honorable attempt. But as I was watching it, I would hope a great director, like a Kubrick, or even, just name your favorite director, would have tackled
Well, this is the fourth screen version of Huck Finn that I know about, so maybe in another 10 years they can try again. When we come back, Jack the Bear with Danny DeVito as a monster movie host whose private life is a mess.
We're gonna be all right.
No, we're not. Nothing's all right.
Then we're gonna make it all right.
Hi, boys and girls. Are you here for kids' stuff? Well, hold your horses and tie up your dragonflies. Because today, we're going to talk about colors.
That's Danny DeVito in a scene from our next movie, a very human, very strange, sometimes funny, sometimes macabre film named Jack the Bear. The bear in the title is a 12-year-old boy named Jack, whose father is the host on the local midnight horror movie. His father is also a comedian, a best pal, and something of a lost soul who drinks too much and is deeply depressed over his wife's untimely death. Early in the film, Jack, played by Robert Steinmiller Jr., gets up the nerve to ask a classmate over for dinner. His dad, played by DeVito, gets into the act with total enthusiasm.
It's very nice to meet you, Karen. Peggy Ettinger. This is my son, Jack Leary, and his friend, Karen Morris.
Hi.
Karen Morris, this is my friend, Peggy Ettinger, and my son, Dylan Leary. Dylan, this is your brother's friend, Karen Morris, and your brother who you know. Jack, this is your brother, Dylan, who you know, and my friend, Peggy Ettinger.
What's it like when it's Halloween, and that's your dad's specialty?
All right, Mr. Adult. The candy cauldron's right here by the door. If you run out, there's more in the cupboard by the fridge. If you run out of that, there's always a change jar. Okay, Charles, let's go and leave your brother to reflect on his lost childhood.
But things aren't always fun and games, like when the DeVito character frequently embarrasses his son in public.
Did you see any other fathers acting like seals?
Somebody had to do it.
Could you ever just stop for like 1 minute?
And when DeVito loses his job and his family, he's pushed to real desperation.
Make it a kid's show. We'll make it light.
No.
We'll make it bright.
No.
Why not?
No.
We'll make it a talk show.
No.
We'll show cartoons.
John, no.
I'll make it a cooking show.
No.
Why not?
Because I don't trust you, that's why.
You have to trust me.
There was an odd and I think unnecessary subplot in Jack the Bear involving Gary Sinise as a neo-Nazi who lives down the street and kidnaps Jack's little brother, and that whole part of the story seemed way too dark and arbitrary to me, even though it comes to a happy conclusion. There was a lot of gloominess in Jack the Bear, in fact, although like a lot of recent movies, the ads are trying to sell it as a comedy. I see it more as a study of offbeat characters, and I especially liked Danny DeVito's work as a guy who gets paid for acting crazy, but starts acting too crazy. I have mixed feelings about this movie, but because of DeVito's performance, I'm giving it thumbs up.
And I'm giving it thumbs up. I have mixed feelings, too. I think the back end of the film, where some of the heartfelt stuff about, you know, losing control of your children is well done. But, boy, I think this film needed another pass through the typewriter to certainly throw out the Sinise role. But some of the comic stuff is much too broad for what's coming later. It's a real jumble here, and I just can't recommend it, even though the subject of a father's devotion to his children and the father as a single parent is a terrific subject for a film.
I just have to ask you this question, and I think I know what we would both answer. If you're going to make a movie about this character and his loss of his wife and his problems in raising his kids, why do you need to throw in a neo-Nazi child abuser into the mix? Why was that necessary? Why not just leave it out?
There are other sequences, too. He should treat the subject seriously. I know it's based apparently on a well-respected book. I think that my intuition would be that the book treated the movie seriously. This put some sweet moments in it and high comic moments to sort of cover all bets. And that's the safe kind of filmmaking that makes me not recommend the film. Coming up next, a sex comedy called simply and ungrammatically enough, The Opposite Sex and How to Live with Them.
Of course, the view is awfully nice. Interesting food, stock bar. I'm staying there.
Confident, more assertive, more in control.
You should go for it. Little dimples, little ass, little potential.
That's Ari Gross and Courtney Cox as young lovers afraid of marriage in the comedy called The Opposite Sex and How to Live with Them. And this is an early candidate for Worst Movie of the Year, a dismal comedy about the dating game. Here's a sample of the humor as Ari Gross and Courtney Cox have their first date. They say they don't want to get involved, but then they do in a big way, and isn't that a scream?
What was that?
Oh, in a way it is. I hate this picture.
What was that?
Cat?
Haagen-Dazs?
Don't panic, dude. We're like Hell's Angels. We share everything.
Here's another laugh riot. A stormy moment on the beach as one of Ari Gross's friends comes on to Courtney Cox. Who wrote this? A child's computer?
George, you're hitting on my girlfriend?
Yeah, absolutely. She's really awesome.
Yeah, she is, isn't she? Hey, look, George, please don't do it anymore, okay?
I'll try.
Also in the film is the very funny Kevin Pollak as the best friend, but he's not funny here.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you ask her if you liked a particular food?
So? That's a question that an old man asks his wife at a salad bowl. Couples who've been married thousands of years. Men who no longer own their own prostate.
Oh, brother, The Opposite Sex and How to Live with Them is one of those movies that makes your skin crawl within 5 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating, and then the next 90 minutes are sheer torture. How does a film like this get made in the 90s, the 1990s?
Or you could ask the same question about the decade of your choice. I agree with you. This film is a real, long, slow, horrible experience. This is one of the stupidest films, and the characters in it are so dumb. The real story of this movie is that people like that could walk around on the street without minders.
Well, I just wonder, you know, wouldn't you know that these actors would know that this dialogue is better? What happened
I think
here?
that what happens is that at the beginning, everybody sells each other on what a great movie it's going to be, and there was nobody to come and blow the whistle and say, this is not a filmable screenplay. I think that's what happens.
It's that bad. When we come back, Intervista, the first film in 7 years from the great Italian director Federico Fellini.
Fellini's new film Intervista shows the famous Italian director being interviewed by a Japanese TV crew. Then he takes them and us along for a conducted tour through the Cinecittà studio in Rome, where he made many of his famous pictures. This is a flashback to his first visit to the studio as a young man. A wedding is being filmed, and somehow it's already a Fellini-esque wedding. How do they shoot those old streetcar scenes? Fellini's explanation turns into a scene of its own. Marcello Mastroianni turns up for a visit dressed as Mandrake the Magician, and presto, Fellini sweeps Marcello along on a surprise visit to Anita Ekberg, his co-star in the great Fellini film La Dolce Vita. Now, this is the best scene in the film as they watch themselves all those years ago.
La madre, il mare profondo, la casa. Sei Eva, la prima donna apparsa sulla terra.
Intervista is not great Fellini, and indeed he used the same autobiographical approach about a director making a movie in 8½, his great 1963 film, which I recommend that you rent. By comparison, Intervista seems more like footnotes and doodles. But Fellini is incapable of making a movie without great images, and I will remember some in this one. I'll remember Marcello and Anita watching themselves in the movies, and I'll remember the scene where the director starts kicking over the phony elephants, and the bittersweet final night scene in the rain. This isn't great Fellini, but it's Fellini, and that's good enough.
Well, it's not good enough because you're sitting there and you're wishing, throw out the Japanese TV crew, throw out that artifice, and wouldn't it be great if there were more sequences like it? He could have done it. More sequences like Marcello Mastroianni and Anita Ekberg. Revisit some of those actors, and just that conceit would have been enough. Fellini goes to show some of his old actors some of their scenes and talk about them.
I would have enjoyed seeing
it would have
that.
been so easy and wonderful.
But don't you feel this movie is kind of a must if you've seen all the other Fellini movies?
I will say this, that sequence that you named is a must.
Yes,
now,
it is.
that is a treasure, and when he comes and we see the size of Anita Ekberg, it's a magical effect. I mean, Fellini has had a number of great large women in his film, and we've thought that sometimes they were gimmicks or something. This time, she's a real force. It's spectacular. That one sequence, but I can't recommend the movie. I recommend the scene. When we come back, our video pick of the week, a better adult and child adventure film than Cop and a Half. It couldn't be worse. This one led to an Oscar for its 10-year-old actress. About kids working with adults can fail miserably like I thought Cop and a Half did, or succeed beautifully like our video pick of the week, Paper Moon. The 1973 movie won an Oscar for then 10-year-old Tatum O'Neal, playing a Depression-era hustler who becomes the unwilling partner of a professional con man played by her real-life father, Ryan O'Neal.
I wish I could tell you I'm your pa, but it just ain't like that.
You met her in a bar room.
Just because a man meets a woman in a barroom don't mean he's your pa. Eat your Coney Island.
Well, then if you ain't my pa, I want my $200.
Okay.
I want my $200. I heard you through the door talking to that man. It's my money you got, and I want it.
No, you just hold on a second.
I want my money. You took my $200.
There's genuine acting between these two. They don't give us a case of the cutes, as you might expect with a real parent and child.
How'd you like to do a little business with me?
Instead of paying me back?
Now, don't get nervous. I'll pay you back. I'm just saying while we're heading east, how'd you like to do a little business together, that's all.
Paper Moon was directed by Peter Bogdanovich, then at the top of his form after The Last Picture Show and What's Up, Doc? A series of films that are entertaining in their own right, as well as tributes to classic film genres of the past. Paper Moon, our video pick of the week. It's 20 years old. I'm sure a whole generation of people have never seen it. It's terrific. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. A split vote on the buddy picture Cop and a Half. Roger enjoyed the performances of both Burt Reynolds and Norman D. Golden II. I didn't care for either, and I thought the whole script was insipid. 2 thumbs up, however, for the latest film version of The Adventures of Huck Finn, with some surprising seriousness attached to this classic material. A split vote on Jack the Bear, with Danny DeVito as a beleaguered single father. We both thought the script was overstuffed. Roger, however, recommends it for DeVito's performance. I can't. 2 thumbs down, way down, for The Opposite Sex and How to Live with Them. A sure bet to make our worst of the year list, and April has just gotten started. And finally, a split vote on Federico Fellini's Intervista, an autobiographical pseudo-documentary with one fabulous scene. Roger liked the movie more than I did. So for me, at least, it's The Adventures of Huck Finn.
Okay, and I think also that kids in particular are really going to love Cop and a Half. I think you were way too hard on it. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Indecent Proposal, starring Robert Redford as the tycoon who thinks his money can buy Demi Moore from her husband, Woody Harrelson.
Excuse me? Would you mind lending me your wife?
Excuse me?
And also This Boy's Life, starring Robert De Niro as the insufferable second husband of Ellen Barkin. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Easy Spirit Lights, the first light shoe with the right support. Real arch supports plus all the cushioning of an athletic shoe. So now you can hit the pavement without the pavement hitting you. Stork Chocolate Reason. If you like chocolate, then you'll love Reason. Extra chewy chocolate caramels covered with a rich chocolate coating. With the no-nonsense confidence of new triple run guards, you'll do a no-nonsense job all day, every day. St. Ives Swiss Formula Peaches and Cream Facial Beauty Wash. For a peaches and cream complexion, it's St. Ives Swiss Formula naturally.